guys. For the last couple weeks, we've been talking about surprising things or plot twists in Jesus' life after he rose from the dead, which was the ultimate plot twist. Last week, we talked about how Jesus is our hope. When all seems lost, he gives us peace. Today, we're going to talk about how he goes beyond that. He gives us peace and his presence stays with us. Loneliness has been something that I've struggled with most of my life. Growing up, I always had some bouts of depression and anxiety, but the one thing that hit me the hardest growing up was separation anxiety. Little things like just going to school or leaving my parents caused so much anxiety for me that it was a struggle each and every day. As I've gotten older, it's gotten better. However, I had a really bad spell of separation anxiety and loneliness about 3 years ago when my mom moved to Virginia. Growing up, I was really close to my family. And at this time, about 3 years ago, my mom was living in Virginia and my brother was living down in Florida. So it was just me here alone without them. And of course I had Kyle, but when you have your family that you're so close to and they're no longer here for me just to give a call and hang out with whenever I want or go over to their house and see them, it caused a lot of loneliness in my life. Over the last couple years, I've found ways to, communicate more with them or found new people in my life here in Newark to connect with, but I continue to struggle with that loneliness that I feel a void with my mom and brother not being here. And that's something that I think I'll always struggled with is that separation anxiety and anxiety. I want to get back to our story about Jesus now. After Jesus rose from the dead, he visited some of his disciples like Mary, Peter, and John. We heard their stories last time, but today I want to introduce you to two other followers of Jesus who were walking home to a town called Emmaus. These two Jesus followers had heard Jesus was alive, but when we've actually seen your friend die, that's not a very easy thing to believe. While these two walked home a 7-ish mile journey, they had plenty of time to discuss everything that was going on. It's hard to say exactly why these two didn't recognize Jesus right away when he started walking alongside them. They knew him well and would have been familiar with his face and voice. Maybe Jesus intentionally prevented them from recognizing him for a while. He is God after all. He can do things like that. Or maybe their grief over the loss of their friend was actually a blindfold. Maybe their sadness made it hard to believe good things could really happen anymore. Maybe their pain was preventing them from seeing what was right in front of them. Jesus wasn't offended when his friends didn't recognize him. Instead, Jesus patiently walked with them, discussed their feelings and doubts with them, and helped explain some of the events from the past few days that were the hardest to understand. When they finally arrived to Emmaus and sat down for a meal together, they finally recognized Jesus had been there the whole time. In Luke 24:30-32, it says, "When he was at the table with them, he took bread, gave thanks, broke it, and began to give it to them. Then their eyes were opened and they recognized him and disappeared from their sight. They asked each other, 'Were not our hearts burning within us while we talked with us on the road and opened the scriptures to us?'" These disciples spent 7 miles reflecting on the loss of their friend and teacher, but they had forgotten what Jesus had already promised to them. Maybe it just took a simple reminder, like a meal with friends, to remind them that Jesus promised he would never leave them to suffer alone. What will it take for us to remember that Jesus is with us in the presence of the Holy Spirit? We're going to talk about that in our small group tonight. Jesus is with us. Sometimes it just takes some work on our part to notice him.